A mother's love is supposed to be the most powerful protective force on Earth, an unbreakable bond, an instinct older than civilization itself. We place mothers on a pedestal, and rightfully so. But what happens when that bond is not just broken, but weaponized? Today, we're looking at some of the most disturbing cases in modern criminal history. Women who didn't just fail their children, they became the very danger those children needed protecting from. These are the most evil mothers sentenced to life in prison. Case 1. Susan Smith. On the night of October 25, 1994, Susan Smith appeared on national television, her face twisted in grief, tears streaming down her cheeks, and begged for the safe return of her two young sons. She claimed a black man had carjacked her at gunpoint and driven off with 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex still strapped in their car seats. The nation wept with her. For 9 agonizing days, an FBI-led manhunt consumed the small town of Union, South Carolina. Yellow ribbons wrapped around trees. Prayer vigils filled the streets. Everyone rallied behind this devastated mother. But investigators noticed the cracks. Her description of the carjacker was impossibly vague. She was eerily calm under questioning. She failed multiple polygraph tests. And then there was the motive. A secret affair with a wealthy local man who had recently broken up with her, writing explicitly that he was not ready for a ready-made family. On day 9, Sheriff Howard Wells sat across from Susan Smith and told her quietly, "We know there was no carjacker." The facade shattered. Susan confessed, there was no black man, no carjacking. It was a racist lie, a fabrication designed to conceal the unthinkable. She had driven her boys to the dark, still edge of John D. Long Lake, gotten out of the car, released the handbrake, and watched it roll into the water. Her sons drowned, strapped in their seats, while she hoped to build a new life with a man who didn't want them. When divers pulled the car to the surface, the image of those 2 small boys, still buckled in, shattered the heart of an entire country. Susan Smith was convicted of 2 counts of murder in 1995. She is currently serving life in prison in South Carolina and became eligible for parole for the first time in November 2024, a prospect that sparked immediate and widespread public outrage. Case 2. Andrea Yates. Not every case on this list is a story of cold calculation. Some are something far more disturbing. A mind so thoroughly broken by illness that it turned love itself into something monstrous. Andrea Yates was a former nurse, a devoted stay-at-home mother in suburban Houston, Texas. Her husband Rusty was a NASA engineer. To the outside world, they had everything: a devout faith, a beautiful home, and 5 bright children. But Andrea had been fighting a losing battle with severe postpartum psychosis for years. After her 4th child, she attempted suicide twice. She was hospitalized multiple times. Doctors issued a stark warning. Having another child could trigger a catastrophic breakdown. They had a 5th child anyway. On the morning of June 20th, 2001, Andrea's delusions reached their horrific conclusion, consumed by the belief that Satan lived inside her, and that her children were destined for hell because of her failings. She drowned each of her 5 children, one by one, in the bathtub: Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and 6-month-old Mary. When her eldest, Noah, walked in and asked what was wrong with his baby sister, she chased him through the house, dragged him back, and forced him under the water. She then laid their small bodies on the bed, covered them with a sheet, and called 911. "I just killed my kids," she told the operator in a flat, emotionless voice. Her first conviction was overturned after a key piece of prosecution testimony was found to be fabricated. At her second trial in 2006, the jury found her not guilty by reason of insanity. She was not freed. She was committed to a high-security psychiatric hospital in Texas, where she remains today. Each year, she waives her right to a release hearing. She reportedly spends her time making art and watching home videos of the children she lost. Case 3. Diane Stott. If Susan Smith represents rage and Andrea Yates represents illness, Diane Stott represents something colder and, in some ways, more terrifying: pure, methodical contempt. Diane was a church organist in Springfield, Missouri, a wife, a mother of 4, and, unknown to anyone, a poisoner. She hated her husband. She considered her autistic son a pest. She saw her daughter's student loan debt as a drain, and so, with chilling patience, she began eliminating them, lacing their favorite drinks, Gatorade and Coca-Cola, with antifreeze. Her husband died on Easter Sunday, 2012, ruled natural causes. Her son died 5 months later. Again, no suspicion. It was only when her daughter Sarah was hospitalized with mysterious organ failure that a church pastor, disturbed by Diane's dark jokes about the deaths, called the police. When detectives confronted her, the grieving widow mask slipped. She confessed, calmly, almost casually, describing her victims not as family, but as annoyances to be disposed of. And then came the twist that stunned investigators. Her 22-year-old daughter, Rachel, hadn't just known about the murders. She had helped plan them. Diane Stout pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and is now serving life without parole. Rachel, who testified against her mother, received 2 life sentences with the possibility of parole. Sarah, the final target, survived. Case 4. Lori Vallow Daybell. Some of the most evil acts are committed not in rage or despair, but in the name of righteousness. Lori Vallow appeared to be a devoted Mormon mother, a former beauty queen raising 2 children, teenage Tylee and young JJ, who had special needs. But after meeting doomsday author and self-described prophet Chad Daybell, her world turned dark. Together, they developed a belief system built around zombies, the idea that people's bodies could be possessed by evil spirits. The only solution? Destroy the body. As their affair intensified, obstacles began to disappear. Lori's husband was shot and killed. Chad's wife died in her sleep. And then, in the fall of 2019, Tylee and JJ simply vanished. While the world demanded answers, Lori and Chad got married on a beach in Hawaii, smiling in their wedding photos. When investigators finally excavated Chad Daybell's backyard in June 2020, what they found was devastating. Tylee's remains had been dismembered, burned, and placed in a melted green bucket. 7-year-old JJ was found in his red pajamas, wrapped in plastic bags, buried in a shallow pet grave. The zombie theology, prosecutors argued, was just a cover for a simpler motive: money, freedom, and each other. In May 2023, Lori Vallow Daybell was convicted of the first-degree murders of both her children and of conspiring to murder Tammy Daybell. She is now serving 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Case 5. Tiffany Moss. And then there is Tiffany Moss, a case that strips away every possible justification and leaves nothing but cold, deliberate cruelty. Tiffany and her husband Emin lived in Lawrenceville, Georgia, with their biological children and 10-year-old Imani, Emin's daughter from a previous relationship. While her own children were fed, clothed, and cared for, Imani was systematically starved, locked in a bare bedroom, denied food for weeks on end, while the sounds of family life, including meals Tiffany cooked and photographed for her husband, carried on just outside her door. By October 2013, Imani weighed just 32 pounds, the average weight of a 3-year-old. She was 10. After Imani died, Tiffany and her husband stuffed her tiny body into a galvanized steel trash can and tried to burn her remains. When that failed, they dumped the can in the woods. At trial, Tiffany Moss represented herself and said absolutely nothing. No opening statement, no witnesses, no cross-examination, not a single word in her own defense. She sat in total silence as prosecutors presented photos of Imani's wasted body and played an audio recording of the little girl's desperate voice begging for her father. The jury deliberated less than 2 hours. She was convicted of malice murder. The death sentence took less than 3 hours more to decide. Tiffany Moss is currently the only woman on Georgia's death row, awaiting execution at Arendelle State Prison. Her silence was not the silence of a victim, it was the silence of someone who felt absolutely nothing. From Susan Smith's orchestrated lies to Lori Vallow's apocalyptic delusions, from Diane Stott's cold poison to Tiffany Moss's deafening silence. These women represent something we struggle to fully comprehend. A mother's love not just absent, but inverted, twisted into the sharpest possible weapon against the very children they were supposed to protect. Their crimes leave a mark on our understanding of human nature that never fully fades. If you found today's video compelling, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Drop a comment below. Which case disturbed you the most and why? We'll see you in the next one.